My God. Wow. Really? This is next level. Oh, look at them. Thank you. Thank you guys. This has been incredible. Words really cannot describe just how magical this place is. All right, so day 2 of the conference is underway. It's only a half day, but we've learned so much already. The day started with a necropsy, or autopsy, being done on an Algerian spurthide, that's Algerian Greek tortoise for us Americans, that died from unknown causes. You learn a lot from these things, and they really should be done more often. Don't worry, we're not going to show any graphic footage.
First impressions looking inside this tortoise, I think you said on that, is this abnormal amount of follicles. Already we can see that we've got some kind of reproductive catastrophe going on there.
You know, these animals came into the country as wild-caught old adults to begin with, fed improper diets, kept in improper environments, and then by the time they get to clubs or societies or rescues like Eleanor's, they're just too compromised. But as you've seen in other videos that we've shown you, everything happens with these animals extremely slowly. So they die slowly. They can be compromised for a very long time before something actually finally takes them. In this animal's case, a female, it was follicular stasis. She had too many follicles, low calcium, and this brought on other issues too. We also learned about what one zoo is doing for Menorrhea emys fayeri, which I found very interesting. They're really honing in on the ecology of the animal and being able to do that for them in a captive situation, again, primarily indoors. One of the things they did was they actually grew mushrooms onto a rotting log on the ground, and the animals are then able to wear their beaks down. More often than not, we see these animals with such horrid overgrown beaks and banged up, twisted nails, but when you provide for them in a more natural manner, they get to work for their food, which is what they're supposed to do. They naturally wear their beaks down, among other things. And there's just so many incredible pieces of information that we're taking away from all this. But I could talk about this forever, and I actually have to get back in there because I'm about to deliver the final presentation of the European Turtle Alliance Conference.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris. Look forward to it.
Got it. We have the tortoises, we have the box turtles, which are their own thing. We have our freshwater turtles, our sea turtles, and then we have this unique species, which is the only true endemic species to the brackish waterways. They occur in the salt marshes, the bays, the estuaries, the tidal pools. And as the last talk for this conference, thank you. Thank you guys, this has been incredible.
And they had this whole area in here.
Wow.
But as time's gone on, I've kind of cut it right back to just some elderly girls that I've had for 20 years.
Okay.
And we now plank it and we grow edible browse so that they can eat all summer. And when it starts getting hot, we water it in the evenings so it keeps growing. So we're feeding as much variety as possible. She's got 3 legs.
We've got 2 girls right here, both on the nesting mound.
Yeah.
Wow. So she's actually growing edible browse right here. So this is sectioned off for these plants to come back, and then I guess you just remove them and the tortoises go in and help themselves, and then when they've had enough and the plants are getting low, they section it off again so it can grow back. Some interesting tips for you guys. Look at these ladies.
So the girls are free to go in and out of that glass house. There's a tunnel and they can go in and out.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So it's they've got a variety of habitat, so they're free to roam. And all we do is a walkthrough to make sure that when the boys are in, that they haven't been flipped upside down and we haven't spotted. But other than that, they're free to just do natural behaviour.
Radiata?
Yeah. Yeah, there's not many in the UK.
Yeah, look at that's a large animal right there.
So this is Bentley, my radiator named after cars. When I got her, she was palm size, and she was one of the custom seizures found in Hong Kong.
Really?
Yeah, so Europe took just under 100 animals from that seizure, where there was several hundred found in a suitcase.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember.
Yeah,
Right.
because they were getting to a point where they were going to have to euthanize some, because there were so many, they were struggling to place them.
So these animals were confiscated in Hong Kong?
Yeah.
And wow.
And we, as a collective in Europe, took on
Okay.
I think 90, 94. I think you had some radiata, possibly. Seizures from Kadori.
40
Yeah.
she 20.
Yep. She's been fed like a Mediterranean. So she's been on dried grass, the grass herb cob that we talk about a lot from Germany, agrobs, which is like a lots of different varieties of weeds and grass.
Okay.
And then we mix in fresh weeds whenever we can.
Yeah.
But we also put some calcium D3 supplement because in the UK our calcium levels in the ground are so crazy low. It's very easy to have a deficient animal.
Okay.
So a combination of humidity, high fibre, and I don't know anyone else that's managed to get them to grow quite so smooth.
Yeah.
So they come in and on colder days they've got a loamy sand soil mix
Right.
for nests with the
You
the
can
heat
see
lamps.
all the urates that they've
Yeah.
been up on there. So they'll come in here to nest on the unfavorable days.
Yep.
But on a day like today, that's why they're pushing
they're
around
all
out
pushing
there.
around outside.
See, if you take a look around, you can see the kind of accommodation that, again, this stuff is not impossible, but certain parts of the world you have to do a little bit more. We don't have to do this where we're at, but we still give them a very mini version of it with those little cold frames in greenhouses. But you can actually stand up and move around in here, and the animals can be sectioned off in here during certain days where they will choose to nest in here over being out there when it might be rainy and cool. And then they can also be isolated in here to hibernate, right?
Can you see the bubble wrap?
Yeah.
So this is to hold the heat right up until hibernation. This is a commercial UV stable bubble wrap.
Wow.
So then that means that it doesn't drop too much. But you do still have to do heaters
Sure.
and stuff just to bring them right through to
Yeah.
up to hibernation.
For anybody who might be watching from this part of the world or somewhere similar, what do you generally get with something out like a Herman's tortoise out? Like when do they disappear for the most part, and then when will they wake up? Or-
Okay, so they start getting a little bit dozy in September, and I reduce the size of the outdoor enclosure.
Okay.
Because there's always a few usual suspects which will dig down
Yes.
with natural behaviour and vanish far too early, because an English winter is 6 months, and we don't want a tortoise to hibernate more than 3 months really.
Right.
And if you let them, they'll follow an English winter, which can be quite debilitating for them or even life-threatening.
Right.
So at that point, we then bring them in so they cannot vanish.
Okay.
And then we're encouraging them and pampering them a little bit with a few warm baths a week, popping them under the heat lamp, just to try and extend their summer a little bit.
Okay. Wow.
I know.
Yeah. But you know what? It's amazing that you've been able to figure that out. You know, because the animals are still, compared to many parts of the world, living a very natural life. You know, there's still some intervention. You know, playing a little bit of a game with sectioning off the enclosure or going a little bit smaller during certain times of year so they don't vanish. But I mean, I've never been in anything else like this. You know, this is really unique and smart.
Yeah, and you can pick up a greenhouse very inexpensively in the UK. You can buy one second-hand off a Facebook Market, local paper, and then line it with this UV stable bubble wrap, which you can buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
So you know, it doesn't have to be pretty.
Okay.
You know, people who you can do a purpose-built building with lovely UV penetrating polycarbonate. You know, that's a dream, but even I haven't done that.
Yeah.
I need to save up for that.
Wow, look at
but
this.
this works. It's,
And you know, also I just wanted to add too, the animals have uneven terrain, areas to climb, move around in. It promotes exercise and
It's
prevent
enrichment.
muscle atrophy. And yes, it's enrichment. Enrichment is important for any animal.
So, because it's been a hot day, they have got more lettuce than they've grown.
Oh, look at them. Oh, can I pick any of them
Yeah,
up?
you can pick,
Oh,
pick them
look.
all up. Now, this is an unusual one because she's quite long.
She is. She
yeah, where's she
is.
from?
Wow, who knows, right? Testudo hermanni boatgeri, the eastern Herman's tortoise, the most common of the Herman's tortoises and one of the most common European or Mediterranean species, but what's uncommon is to see them looking like this. This is a perfect animal. Are these original wild caughts?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd love to find someone who's got more like that.
Yeah, these are, wow, look at this. Look at the just the smoothness of the shell, the markings, the clarity. I know she's a little bit dirty, but you can just see looking at that black and yellow, the clarity of the two colors that this species tends to be. And I'll show you right here real quick. You can tell it's boatgeri and not the western subspecies because the pectoral scoot seam right here, whoops, is wider than the femoral. And she also has the broken up bands or more splotching or blotchy pattern instead of those two solid longitudinal lines. And there's other differences, but for now that's a key indicator. Something very interesting to point out is the size of these animals, because more often than not we hear in the American pet trade that Hermann's tortoises in general only grow to be 4 to 6 inches, maybe 7, and that is not the case. If you recall Athena, the very large 11.2 inch Eastern Hermann's tortoise we have back at GST, she is that exception to the general rule, but here you go. This is an average size female right here, an older but not extremely old reproductive female that is every bit of, I would say, 8.5, maybe even 9 inches. So these animals do get larger. They are the largest of the Hermann's tortoises, and even males can attain some pretty considerable dimensions. Look at that. This right here, this is next level. This right here is all tortoise food. This is a juvenile Testudo greca whitey eye, or again what was once called whitey eye. 8 years old with a very long way to go. These animals are often get larger than the Ibera do. You can see the distinct markings on it already. It has that almost radiating pattern, blotching, spotting, not quite like the Libyan. In fact, a very different animal, but from a similar part of the world. These animals come from Algeria. We often refer to them as the Algerian giants. And this is a true captive bred individual, and that is something you just don't see. Certainly not in the United States of America. I can't believe I'm holding this. And it looks like it's a young female too. Really? I want to show you guys just how beautiful they are by wetting her down. Look at this. Look at those beautiful markings. You can see they are very different from a Libyan tortoise, but they do have that almost mosaic splotching pattern, which will eventually fade, and the animals are usually very light as adults. Yeah. Testudo greca nabulensis. This is an old adult male, and considerable size already. You know, most of the ones we have, the males we have, are still very small. They're younger animals, but this is actually larger than most of the adult females you'll see. My God. This is real. This is a real whitey eye. This animal is every bit the size of a marginated. Look at this. That juvenile we just showed you may one day get to be this size. Wow. But you see what I mean? As they age, they start to lose some of the pattern. They get a much lighter coloration. Really an interesting, almost a taupe, you know, not a yellow really. Man, and they do flare at the back, so you can see why some people might get confused with the marginated tortoise, but they are in fact a Testudo greca Greek tortoise or spur-thighed tortoise subspecies. And this really is, I can't say it enough, this is a special animal that you just do not see. Look at that, it takes 2 hands. This is bigger than your average Ibera, bigger than most Ibera, and you know what, I would love to pull an Ibera out to show a comparison. This is a great comparison. This is what I wanted to show everybody. This is Testudo greca Ibera. In the States, they call them the Ibera Greek tortoise. Over here, they often just refer to them as the spur thigh, or it's also correctly called the Asia Minor tortoise. This is often dubbed as the world's largest of the spur thighs or Greek tortoises, but look at that. These are both reproductive females, and your Algerian whitey eye right here is largely larger than the Ibera. I mean, that is even the size of the heads.
So you've got more pointy, and the Iberas have really jet black beady eyes, where these guys are broader, almost like a gopher tortoise. So Ibera is often quite small and black, where these guys have got very large spurs.
And pale too.
Yeah. And their skin's a lot darker, the Iberas, where these guys are quite yellow.
The Ibera overall is a much hardier animal too, able to withstand various conditions, whereas the Algerians are more sensitive.
And this is a big Ibera.
Yeah. All right, so let's back up for a minute because yesterday we were completely paralyzed by the sights, the sounds, and the beauties of where we are. We're staying in an undisclosed location with some friends in England, and this place is really, truly magical. It's full of history, it's full of plant life, and it's also home to tortoises. Okay, so Eleanor Tortosana is the chair of the European Turtle Alliance, and she's also the founder of the Norfolk Tortoise Club. And just last year alone, she rehomed over 100 tortoises in need of homes after bringing them back to health. And you can see the kind of care that goes into these animals, but not just them, but their habitats and also their food sources. I mean, it's really something that you do not get to see much of in most parts of the world. And to see her doing it here is even more special in my opinion. I was really excited yesterday when I first got to show you guys these Algerian Greek tortoises, the Testudo greca whitei, but now I've calmed down a little bit, so I want to show you a little bit more. Look at these animals. They really are truly special, and you know, you're really not going to see them pretty much anywhere else in the world. I'm actually very confident in saying that. I'm sure there's some around here and there, but these animals got imported from their native Algeria decades and decades ago, and this is where they ended up. And you'll notice that across the world that certain species or even certain examples of species and subspecies ended up in some countries where in other countries they didn't. So the United States, for example, we always had Horsfield/Russian tortoises, Eastern Hermann's tortoises, which included the Dalmatian variant, and the Ibera Greek tortoises. That's what would commonly end up in the United States as far as the Mediterranean species went. But over here in England, these Algerian tortoises, among all the ones I just mentioned, and others have come in. And of course, there are other ways that animals ended up in different situations. If you follow us, you might be familiar with how we ended up with a lot of our rare Mediterranean tortoise species, but that's a story for another day. These animals come from the Algerian mountains, much higher altitude than a lot of other tortoises are found. So these girls really are just a true giant example of such a famously known European species and North African species, which is the Greek or spur-thighed tortoise Testudo greca. They're a very complex group of animals, very difficult to ID, but I think many of you out there watching this might agree that if you came across this animal, while you may not know what it is right away, you would be able to say to yourself, you know, I think that's something different. I think that's something special. And it's a testament to how we really need to do more research on both the ecology, whereabouts of these animals in nature, and of course their genetics, because this animal is not a little Tunisian spur thigh or an Ibera Greek, and it really shouldn't be mixed with anything else either. And that brings me back to another issue. When these animals first came in, everybody was just mixing things up. Nobody really took the time to figure out, hey, I think I might have 2 different animals here, or 3 different animals, or even more than that. And that's how hybrids have been created, and bloodlines and subspecies and locality-specific animals have been lost in time because we didn't really know much back then. And people like Eleanor are really shedding light on the importance of these animals, and that's one of the reasons why she brought us over here. She really wanted us to talk about what we're doing with the animals over in the States, and just how special we think they are and deserving of being kept pure. Man, just look at these animals. My muscles hurt from trying to hold them up. Here's just another example of the amazing diets that these tortoises are getting. This is all edible browse that's been picked from the gardens here. They purposely grow this stuff so that the animals always have a natural food source. And in combination with that, they've added calcium powder, and this fibrous material right here is basically dried vegetation, dried grasses or hays, and other safe foods for tortoises, and it gives them that really high fiber diet, because species like these, including leopard and sulcata tortoises, just a couple for example, they really need that high fiber, high calcium, low protein diet. And if you feed the animals like that, as they would feed in nature, they'll grow at a natural rate, and they will also grow smooth. It's not always about making sure they're hydrated, and of course, the sufficient and proper diet is what's going to keep these animals living to their potential lifespans. Although he does seem to like your toes, Case.
Don't you do it.
This is the result of amazing care. These are little baby tortoises that were born right here, produced by the adults being housed here, and they're being kept outside but in a controlled setting so that they're protected from predators. And these animals are last year's babies, so they are not fresh hatchlings, but look at the growth. Look at how amazing that is. These animals are getting everything they need to survive, and they look just as they would in their wild homes, because every single requirement is being met. And when you do that, they essentially require our absence, because they're not dogs, they're not cats. They really just need to have those basic needs set in motion, and then the tortoises can do the rest themselves. Of course, there's times of intervention and ways that you can help the animals out to ensure things are going well. This is an animal that does not need to be over pampered. It just needs to have what nature would provide it, and then it can do everything on its own. Very simple setups to get these animals started. They're already on a natural type diet. And you will notice, if you take a look at all the areas where they're being fed, that there is calcium powder. And there's also other additives and ways these animals can access calcium even into adulthood here. And that's because the ground here in England is not very calcium rich. So Eleanor has done extra things to make sure the tortoises get calcium, not just by adding it to their food, but adding things to the environment where they can access the calcium when they see fit. Instead of just forcing it on them all the time, you have to allow the animals to use those instincts. Let them respond to the triggers their bodies are giving them. You know, words really cannot describe just how magical this place is. I really think the word magical is probably the closest you can get to trying to sum up what's being done here for the animals, the plant life, the history of this place. It's unlike anything we've ever experienced. But I gotta get ready to head out, because we still have plenty of amazing things to see right here in the UK, and our European adventure is nowhere near over yet.